For today's Ask ATRAM, we will be answering your questions on our topic for today, wealth portfolio management. Joining us today is none other than the head of ATRAM Wealth, Marcy Kohchet-Chua. Hi, Marcy. How are you today?
Hello, B. Good morning.
You're
How are
looking
you?
so I'm sure everyone is excited to hear from you. So without further ado, let's get started. To kick off things, we have a few questions we received from our past webinars. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. So our first question
Fantastic.
is, how does ATRAM Wealth service its clients?
Very good first question. Thank you, B. Atram's approach to wealth management is by doing discretionary investment portfolio management. So um, this is really a different approach than what most Filipino investors are familiar with, because in a discretionary portfolio management, the research, the analysis, and even the choice of funds, and which is the most important, the choice of the funds to invest in are decided on by ATRAM's experienced and certified portfolio managers, all within the agreed asset allocation and mandate and investment strategy that also came from the client. So it is not something where the client is left alone to make a final decision. It's really a partnership when we do our discretionary portfolio management.
Great.
And the actions of changing the funds, actually, and looking for a new fund, realizing the returns on existing investments, these are all done now by ATRAM for its clients. ATRAM clients can rely on the expert decision making, the watchful eyes, that stays closely looking at the market. The required actions that should all be made are are with the client's goals in mind. No? So we do the actions, but it's always within what the clients want, the client risk profile, and also what they need. And the management of the investment risks are the top priority for ATRAM so that the clients are not exposed uh, to all of the risks that could be anticipated and that could be happening in the markets, with the net result that we are able to maximize the returns. And that's it. That is the approach that ATRAM Wealth does when it comes to wealth management.
Thank you, Marcy. I think that was pretty clear. I hope our audience got a good sense of that. So for our next question, what differentiates your wealth management service from that of the ones offered by other banks?
Okay, very good second question because I kind of like prepared my answer in the first one to segue to this. No, so I am aware that the most familiar way that the banks in the Philippines would provide wealth management is really by making available investment choices. No, so they could be bonds, specific bonds, and funds that are available to the investors. No, so they will take the investors then will be requested not to take a pick to make their choice. And later on, the investor will also make his own decisions when to make a move to realize returns and in which funds to invest next. No, so really the banks would prepare clients very well, no, investors very well to start building a portfolio. No? So as they are building, it really is quite good that they are engaging with banks. This is well and good, and but for those that have actually built a sizable portfolio, no, so they could be already at the 5 million level, for example, of an investment portfolio. Some people, some investors would now start to rethink how am I going to do things better? Because now I have a sizable portfolio, and this one now actually needs more watching. No, it needs more time spent in taking a look at what's happening in the markets, taking a look at what is the right decision to make, how to position one's self and that whole larger portfolio to the wider set of choices that could be out there. No? So if that now becomes a necessity, not everyone would really have the time, no, to be able to do that and manage their own portfolio when it is already of a sizable size. And that's the reason why it is important that there is professional help that is available to them. And that's where we came in. And that's actually our difference, no, versus the banks. At ATRAM, this is what we actually do every day. We watch the markets, we do the research, we do the trends analysis, we do the forecasts, we look at all the fundamental economic data and all of the other necessary indicators that could be macro related, could be fund specific, could be sector related in the way that we do our discretionary portfolio management. By doing that, by being here to do that service for investors, we are helping clients to navigate through the more complex markets. And truly, the markets these days, and even in the last 10 years, have become quite complex. No? So it's not straightforward and easy anymore. Some of the old rules no longer apply. No? So there are many, many other factors that have come into the picture. And ATRAM Wealth is here, no, to be able to provide that attention that would be needed for larger portfolios and for probably even new goals that clients would have. I'd like to share, I think at this point, some idea to the audience, no? Because that question on the banks, I mentioned that there is a set of products that would usually be made available by the banks to their investor clients. And some of the banks actually distribute ATRAM funds. No? So as you know, we have several that we make available to the clients. So I'm showing some of them on the screen. Not just local funds, but we also have ATRAM feeder funds. No? So there's also a slew of both local and global funds, ATRAM global feeder funds that we make available. Right? And last but not the least, we also have and are able to access for purposes of the discretionary portfolio, not just the local and global feeder funds of ATRAM, but we also, and in fact, primarily consider more than 300,000 funds globally. So this is a capability that we are able to extend to our clients. And that's the reason why the kinds of discretionary portfolios that our investors are taking advantage of gives them this flexibility, you know, this wide range of choices of equity funds, of fixed income funds, and even alternatives, you know, alternatives like gold, commodity funds. These are all available as part of our portfolio managers' choices to be able to introduce them and make allocations to these products in the discretionary portfolios of our clients. No? So how do they do it? They essentially open an investment management account with ATRAM Wealth.
Thank you, Marcy.
That is hopefully that answered the question on how big the difference is between how we do ATRAM Wealth and how the banks will extend their wealth management products and services.
Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to remind the audience to please feel free to send in your questions, and we'll do our best to get through all of them and have a meaningful discussion. All right, so for our next question, are your products similar to what is offered by insurance companies? So very
interesting. Yeah, a very interesting question. It's not the same in the sense that ATRAM Wealth provides the discretionary portfolio management service, and it doesn't sell any particular fund. Unlike in insurance, there are the more popular insurance products now are really coverages that are investment linked. No, so clients would usually be expected to choose a fund. So as I was saying, so unlike the insurance, no, there is since it's investment linked, they would usually make a choice. The person who wishes to purchase an insurance coverage would make a choice of a particular fund. No? So that's already a major difference. And I think um, the purpose as well of an investor or a client to make a choice to have insurance and also to have an investment portfolio are very, very clear. No? So when they work with ATRAM Wealth, um, it is very clear that they are going for quite specific goals. And the most common of them, and actually the most important of them, would be capital appreciation. Like they want to build on what they already have. And that's something that we can do. Um, some of them, and in fact, at some point, no, in after they have done their capital building with us, they would also want income out of the portfolio. No? So passive income becomes now a priority, especially if they are in a retirement stage of life. And last but not the least would be it is important for retirement planning. No? So as I said, if they are already seeing that they will come to a point that they will no longer produce regularly income, be able to save, and it's time for them to enjoy a more slower life. Then the savings that they had, the investments that they were able to build for many years, it will come to a point that they want it to work harder and to be able to produce passive income for them. No? So that's what Atram Wealth would usually be able to deliver in comparison to insurance, where there is really a priority to think of it as protection. And usually it's really protection for loved ones, no? For people who depend on you, for people who are relying on you, and in case you are no longer capable to produce what is necessary for them to give them financial support, then it's important that that insurance is in place, no, for the investor. It is also actually a fantastic way to build an estate. If they are already, kind of setting up some money, some small lump sums of money, and they want to build on that over time, that's like building already an estate, and they have specific beneficiaries identified for that amount of their wealth, no, for the wealth that they're building. And also, I guess a very similar approach and complementary to what we do in Atram Wealth is insurance is definitely there for retirement planning. And if you really think about it, if these two are combined, they can be very, very powerful. No? Because one is about enjoying things while they are alive. So Atram Wealth will be able to do that. And the other one is really there so that they can count on and feel safe and have peace of mind that they have something that's left even for their fisheries. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Marcy. I think that clearly differentiates the purposes of the two. For this next one, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, why should they invest in Atram Wealth when they can just go through an Atram fund? So, what is really the difference of an actively managed fund versus your actively managed portfolio?
Okay. Very good question. I guess this is really in recognition of many choices now amongst funds which are designed to be also multi-asset. No? So you will find funds which contains both particular stocks as well as specific bonds, all in one product, no, that it can be purchased. Well, there is a big difference, and I'd like to quote what our head of multi-asset management would say. The difference can be likened to um, to a jacket, where when you talk about a jacket that is probably a two weather jacket, you can turn it around, you can bring out the inside when the weather probably is permitting it to be a little warmer, and then probably you can take away some of the layering, and it can be a jacket that's nice for spring, for summer, and perfect for those kinds of specific weather conditions. That's pretty much what a multi-asset fund could be like. But a multi-asset portfolio can be likened to a full wardrobe, right? So you will actually have all the possible necessary clothing for whatever the conditions are outside, not for whatever the conditions are in the case of a multi-asset portfolio in the market. And while a multi-asset portfolio is actually just like a wardrobe, it essentially prepares a client, no, for um, the long-term investing that they intend to do. Because once you make a choice in a multi-asset portfolio, that choice is really about strategy. You are not just choosing a particular fund that you're buying. You are deciding for what your strategy would be. And that strategy can also not necessarily be fixed for a long term. It could be for a short period of time, and then after probably 3 years or 5 years, it will require you to make a choice already for something longer. No, you're now looking at a 10-year period and you need to make a different approach to investing. So it's really a discussion on strategy. That's what happens when you are working with ATRAM Wealth and you are doing a multi-asset portfolio. No, so I think it would be helpful for me to visually show to our audience today and to illustrate better. Let's show them how we actually do the exercise of deciding the strategies for our different clients. So we would usually actually identify a client's risk profile. No? So very, very important, whether you are just simply preparing to choose your own fund, no, when you are working with the banks. Just like that, in ATRAM Wealth, we also have to identify what your risk profile would be. And that risk profile will tell us, are you looking for a stable, cautious portfolio? So something that would be with the primary goal of capital preservation. No? So you just want to beat inflation when it comes to returns because your primary goal is already to preserve that amount of money. No? Or are you still looking for upsides? You want to look for capital appreciation. You still want to maximize returns. And therefore, we will be able now to identify if you will be going for a moderate exposure to equities, or you would like to have more exposure to equities, which could be growth, a 50-50 more balanced approach versus fixed income, and also a more aggressive approach where the primary asset allocation in your ATRAM Wealth portfolio will be in equities. So about 70%, no, of the portfolio would be in equities. So this is actually something that's determined right from the start. We get to know where the client is at this time, what is on their mind, what are their goals, what are their family considerations, no, the purposes for that amount of money. And once we understand all of that and connect it as well to their familiarization with investments, how much risk they are willing to take, and how long, no, how long they wish to actually bring the investment. So all of that come together, and we go through this process of identifying the risk level to enable us to design the strategy. Aside from this kind of consideration, the portfolios also provide flexibility to respond to our clients' needs and goals by getting them exposure to different geographies. No? So if they say, for example, that what I have are actually a lot of US dollars, and right now, no, we all know that there is not much you can get for US dollars because the rates are very, very low and almost nothing, right? And there are also very few choices even on dollar denominated products in the Philippines. So when that now becomes the conversation, ATRAM Wealth would usually be able to bring them a solution that is a pure global portfolio. So the US dollar will be kept intact in that currency, and they will get exposure in global funds. No? So it will be a combination of fixed income, of global equities, and also of alternatives. No? When there is an opportunity to get that exposure, the portfolio will be ready to have that allocation. No? So as an example, no? So it could be a pure global strategy. It could be a global multi-asset strategy. And a global multi-asset strategy will really contain Philippine local equities. So local equities, local fixed income, global equities, and global fixed income, and also even alternatives. There will be that kind of exposure. No? So as they can see on the screen, um, this is a very good way of showing to you how the portfolios could look like. No? So if somebody, so from left to right, that will be defining and showing to you, to our audience, that these allocations are designed to reflect um, the risk profile of the clients and also the goals, not the ones that I had discussed earlier. And it could range from a stable kind of approach to an aggressive approach. And that pie chart, these pie charts are essentially showing the strategic asset allocation that we will work with as portfolio managers of that client when we manage their portfolio. No? So uh, in that scenario, we have also the assurance that we can give to our clients that we are not just going to stay in one place. There is a range of actions that we can take for them. No? So that's why you will find on the pie charts that we have a tactical range, no? A tactical range where we are able to move the assets as necessary. And just, I guess, a little cuento to our audience. At the peak of the pandemic last year, um, we have had to immediately and speedily make a firm decision in March to move the portfolios of our clients to fixed income products, no? Because that was a critical capital preservation situation. And we were able to do that for our clients. We were able to contain their exposure to riskier assets, but it did not leave us without any recourse to go back to risky assets. The portfolio is so flexible that we were able to go back, no, to when the opportunities were already there, which was around May of last year, that there was already opportunity to get back into risk assets. These portfolios were ready for it. And I think we are also happy to share with them how the pure global multi-asset portfolios can look like. No? So in a pure global portfolio with no Philippine exposure, that can be a response. No? As I said, when investing in purely in US dollar currency investments. No? So this is something that is a strategy that we are good at managing. We have many possible choices of funds, global funds that can be selected and can be matched to the views that we have in ATRAM and be able to extend to these portfolios of our clients. No? And therefore, with that kind of design, really the intention is to deliver on their medium to long-term goals. Okay? So again, just wanted to highlight, we have these portfolios, we have the strategic allocation, but the secret to making it work is really on its active management. No? If you are an investor who is now seeing the necessity for a more proactive management, speedy action when necessary, taking advantage of opportunities in the markets, and also positioning for long-term goal, for medium to long-term goal, then I would really encourage you to have a chat with us, no? Because um, this is unprecedented times, and there are, in fact, rare opportunities we could be seeing now, and preparing you for those opportunities to get the best gains in the medium to long term is really at this time. So there is a sense of urgency that I would encourage you to consider. And I think it would be, I'm sure several of our audience would be curious how these kinds of strategies had actually shown its potential performance over the last 10 years. And just to let you know, what we are showing you are backtest results, no? And to just give you an idea, really, how, when you design an asset allocation and you compare it to what has happened in the markets in the last 10 years, these are the cumulative returns that you can expect, no, from that portfolio over that period. But as always, there is a caveat to historical performance. The situations of the past will not necessarily be the situations of the future. But of course, trends like this over a long period of time, this is a 10-year period, also gives you the benefit of assurance that there is stability, there is intelligence behind the strategies that have been taken by ATRAM Wealth, by ATRAM as a whole, and has been tested over periods that could have produced volatilities in the equities markets in particular, and also even in the bonds markets, no, in some periods of time. So what I'm showing you on the screen now are actually 10-year backtest results for Philippine portfolios, for global multi-asset portfolios. And I think our next slide will also be able to show you how the pure global strategies would look like. Okay, and for those of you who are wondering what is CAGR or KGAR, that is compounded annual growth rate. No? So it's earnings over earnings that are can be expected from the portfolios. No? So it is not a surprise that a KGAR would be higher for a higher risk portfolio like a purely Philippine portfolio. But there is also a steadiness that you can expect from a more global design portfolio. No? So it's not as much, but it is a more steady source of capital return. So medyo mahaba yung aking sagot, no? B, I think I have more because I just like to share with our audience as well that another strategy that is made available to clients in ATRAM Wealth is a fixed income strategy. And this is something now that we've found out has been very interesting for businesses, no, for business owners, particularly to help kind of cushion the blow on their cash flow right now, because the impact of the pandemic has been quite tough. And if they have funds, monies that they set aside for the company and just want to keep it safe and waiting for an opportunity to start getting a more actively operating business, we can come in to help with that. No? So we can produce a beat the inflation, higher than deposit rates that they are able to find now in the markets, and just really preserve their monies. And this is what we call the fixed income strategy. It will have an allocation into a total return peso bond fund, together with a corporate bond fund, and also a portion in a money market fund. No? And what they can expect here, again, there is historical performance that we'd like to share. This is a historical performance over the last 10 years. So very proud to be able to also point out that this is an all fixed income strategy, and yet its performance is so much similar, to having a global multi-asset strategy, very close to the performance of a multi-asset strategy that has equity exposure. So I guess the messaging here is, over a long period of time, if people have that kind of mindset, not just a short-term, year-on-year kind of, counting returns, there is something that they can really truly enjoy and will benefit from. No? If it is long-term, medium-term to long-term, and most importantly, actively managed. And that's really what we do. No? We We take over that active management. We have our eyes on the ball. This is what we do every day. This is our expertise. And we would love to partner with investors who are now looking for this kind of expertise so that they can focus naman on their own livelihood. No? So, or even to enjoy healthy and active retirement.
Thank you, Marcy, for your
Agree?
insightful take on that. So for our next question, I'm sure those who are interested in investing in ATRAM Wealth, a top consideration for them is what is the minimum initial investment amount, and also what are the fees involved in ATRAM Wealth?
Okay, yeah, always a good question. And as I said, we really work with investors now who are at a point when they have a sizable investment portfolio. No? So um, our investors interested can avail of Atram Wealth's discretionary portfolio management service at a starting investment amount of 5 million pesos or its equivalent in US dollars. No? So, and there is only one fee that they need to think of, and that is our annual service fee of 1.75% of the market value. No? So this is an annual service fee, so it doesn't happen as a front end fee. It doesn't get charged all at the same time. It is spread out over the year. And as the portfolio actually grows over time, no? So if they get to, say, already grow to a 10 million size of a portfolio and so on, this fee actually also changes. No? So it can be adjusted lower to match as well, and so that they can continue to maximize the returns on their portfolios with Atram Wealth. I hope
Thank you,
I
Marcy.
was able to answer, yeah, all of the questions that had come in. No, previously we've been getting a lot of inquiries actually through our website. So I'm very happy that we had this opportunity to focus on answering those questions. But if there are other live questions from the audience, I would love to be able to respond to that as well.
All right. So at this point, let's move on to those questions. So our first question from the audience is, what is the minimum time horizon to benefit from wealth investing?
I think at the most minimum, you have to be ready to see the results in 3 years. 1 year is really too short. There are just so many things that can happen in a year. I mean, we've just seen that in a rare pandemic year. But even in a normal situation, so much has been happening in the markets. So many factors are changing the behavior of the markets and the market investors that I think it is best to complete a minimum cycle of at least 3 years. And that way they would have gone probably through the lows, the highs of the markets, different cycles, and also be able to start enjoying the benefits of their investments.
Yes,
So three
Marcy,
years.
definitely agree with that. So for our next question, I hope you can clarify for our audience, how is wealth management different from private banking?
Ah, actually, it is quite similar, no? I would say lang that if private banking is spoken about, it is in the context of the way the offshore banks are doing it. No? Kasi we do have some private banking institutions in the Philippines by label, but they are still operating. We should still operate. No, all of us financial institutions in the Philippines, we should still operate within the regulations that the BSP provides us. No, within the Philippines, and that is pretty much how Atram Wealth already operates. What is the maximum we can do? What is permissible if a company like us have a trust license and can exercise discretionary portfolio management? That is pretty much what can be done in the Philippines. And when we now refer to the private banks offshore, that would be what we are doing, and probably they are even doing something else, no? But that's really talking about now that a Filipino investor is already with a portfolio that has a portion meant to be completely offshore, no? And to consider also what are the regulations that they need to abide by when they have those portfolios outside of the country. No, so it is similar in the sense that uh, many of the services of the private banks we can already do here. We can access the same products, no, that are accessed by private banks, but perhaps some of the other requirements that they may have, maybe they will do certain private equity investing, etc. That will mean exposure to offshore. Then that's best that's taken care of by the private bank. But any other more traditional private bank services definitely can be done already by ATRAM Wealth. No? So, in fact, if they wish to transfer, for example, investment products that they're holding on to in another part of the world, and they want to have a discussion with us, we can take a look and review that portfolio and identify for them what they can easily transfer to us and can be the starting point for creating a portfolio with ATRAM Wealth. So all of that we can do.
All right, thank you, Marcy. So someone from our audience wants to know what specific industry or geographic focus does ATRAM favor or venture into?
Okay. We don't really have a specific choice, as in a standard choice. No, I mean the world is where any part of the world is where we need to be. But what is more relevant is where we need to be at this point in time. No? So if you had caught our market outlook last week, you would have picked up some of the insights and the guidance that we have now as we manage the portfolio of our clients, because um, our position right now is to be not too much exposed anymore, to be a little bit underweight with the US as a market, given that the prices of the equities markets are actually quite high, very expensive already in that space. However, we do need to zero in on a particular sector, a particular set of sectors that will be the core equity investments of ATRAM in clients' portfolios, and that would be tech, healthcare, ESG, and also Asia. So these are where we believe the medium to long-term investing will benefit the most. So these are our core sectors. But geography-wise, we are staying underweight from a US exposure. We are now looking at Europe as a possible exposure, only because cyclical sectors have a strong favor in that market. And of course, Asia now is actually an important choice for us to be in. So again, I just like to make a statement on this. We do not favor any particular place, or we say that we will avoid a certain place. Everything is an opportunity, but what is important is to identify, we do identify where we need to be at a certain point in time, because we need to position the portfolios to gain the best, as well as while we are managing the risks that are attached to those choices.
Thank you, Marcy. We have another good question. Is there a holding period for my ATRAM investment?
No, absolutely not. No, so if there are no other fees to think of except the annual service fee, they also don't need to think of any maturity, holding period, etc. It is a very flexible portfolio. No? So, you know, at the end of the day, what we're really doing for clients is we're taking over the responsibility they used to have um, all by themselves. No, they used to want to be the one to invest for, make decisions on everything, to go in and out of their particular choice of portfolio, have to make choices when a bond has already matured. They have to make a choice of when to move next, etc., etc. They used to do that alone. They are doing it alone, no, at this point in time. When you come to us, that essentially is taken away from you because we come in as the experts to help you. and to be your partner, to take care of that part. No? So, and that's why there is no reason for you to be held up with us. No, you don't have to commit a certain amount to us for a certain period. My advice on the minimum period has to do with your goal. No, what is your goal? What is the return you want to expect? Where is the amount of money at a certain period of time that you'd like it to be? That's all part of setting the goal, but it is not a maturity or a holding period. So it is very, very flexible. You would love it if you work with us.
Thank you, Marcy, for clarifying that. Before we wrap up this session, would you have any final words for our viewers today?
Um, yeah, I guess I'd like to leave this insight. No, when an investor is just really building an investment portfolio, it is best that they are doing it directly. No? So really, while you're building, you are just getting to know different kinds of assets, etc. It's fantastic that you take that step slowly in small amounts and build over time. No, and then make your own choices. Get familiar with it. But once you have come to a significant amount of money, what that becomes now um, a more complex responsibility for you. Whether that money is something you've saved up, money that you've inherited, it could be proceeds from property you've sold, um, money that has been hard earned over time. No, itinabe, please consider to let ATRAM take away the worry of the responsibility of making the right investment decisions. So, we are here. We are now very active in the Philippines. You don't have to bring your money outside of the Philippines to be able to access a wider range of choices, especially globally, which has now become really important in everyone's portfolio. So let us talk, discover what we can do for you, and let your investments decisions be made by professionals in ATRAM. And that's my last message to our audience today.
Thank you, Marcy, and thank you to our audience. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. If you have any further questions or would like to learn more about ATRAM Wealth, you may email us directly at atram.wealth@atram.com.ph or visit our website www.atram.com.ph. In case you have not registered for our webinar next week, which features ATRAM's top performing funds, you may do so by scanning the QR code flashed on the screen. Next slide, please. You may also type in the link found on the left side of your screen. We also have webinars lined up for the rest of the month, so please do tune in for that. Lastly, we would like to invite you to join ATRAM's new official Viber community, #ATRAM.PH community, to stay updated on the latest announcements, advisories, and reminders. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit the website below. If you have any friends who you think would like this webinar but are unable to attend, please feel free to share the YouTube replay of this session by visiting our YouTube channel, ATRAM Studios. Lastly, please answer the survey at the end of this webinar. We would love to know your thoughts on this Ask ATRAM Wealth session. On behalf of everyone at ATRAM, thank you very much and have a great day.